I'm McGowan-Lowe. I'm the National Organiser for Scotland for the National Union of Journalists.
Nick, we're outside STV today in Glasgow. Why are people on strike? What are the issues?
We're out on strike because of the latest developments in a pay dispute which has been going on since March. We have a ballot for strike action which stretches all the way to September. This is the second day of strike action today. None of the journalists here want to be out on strike, but they're being forced to by a management that won't listen to reasonable demands and need to come back to the table with a fair offer over pay.
And what was the claim and what was their response?
We've asked for 6%, which would keep our members' salaries together with inflation after, no more than that, but simply to make sure that their pay is not eroded after a year of record increases in housing costs, in fuel costs, in food costs and energy costs.
And STV bosses, I believe, are saying they can't afford that.
They say they can't afford that, but it's interesting what they can afford. They can afford to pay their chief executive 40% more than the Director General of the BBC. The BBC is 45 times larger than STV. So they made choices there. A tiny fraction of that salary from the chief executive would solve this dispute for all of the 90 journalists here and get our members back inside producing the news that Scottish viewers want to see.
And STV journalists, are they on lesser pay than some comparable jobs?
Absolutely. A little bit further down Pacific Quay from here we have the BBC. There's a huge pay disparity between journalists here and there. STV claim that they measure their salaries against market forces, but the truth is that we have journalists who are having to report on food banks and use them at the same time. We have journalists behind us who are having to take second jobs, not being able to afford mortgages, and struggling with basic costs and having to move back in with their parents. That's unacceptable for an organisation which made 20 million in profit last year in what it claimed wasn't a particularly good year for them.
And you're striking today. Is it the AGM? Is that the reason, partly?
Exactly right. It is the AGM today, the shareholder AGM. We're taking our message to the shareholders because we feel that the board, the chief executive and the shareholders need to hear what we have to say. This is a solvable dispute. This is a dispute that anyone looking at it would recognise that the sums of money are relatively small for a company of this size, but mean the world for the journalists behind to feel valued in the kind of award-winning journalism they produce.
And finally, Nick, what's your appeal to the wider trade union movement?
We have been overwhelmed by the solidarity we've had from members of the public, from viewers and the trade union movement here. What we have behind us are journalists who've been reporting on strikes all of last year. And we discovered both on this strike day and the strike day before that trade union movement has rallied behind them and supported them. These are people who have highlighted the struggles of the trade union movement and strikes over the last year, and the trade union movement now recognises that their struggle is everyone's struggle.
Thanks very much, and solidarity from the Scottish Socialist Party.